Last time I spoke about hope, prisoners of hope. Hope anchored in who God is, what He said, saying, did, doing, everything. But our hope, we have to express our hope by an outworking, and that's what we call faith. We're always talking about God's faithfulness. We all know that. And what I want to look at today is our faithfulness. What does that mean? We talk about being in the faith, of the faith, by faith, keep the faith. You need more faith. You should have more faith. I've lost my faith. Some even teach that if you have enough faith, you can basically get what you want from God, and that's not the correct interpretation of ask anything in my name or faith that can move mountains. It's not glib, it's serious, because that is using God as a commodity. We can get from God if we put in, and that's not what faith is. We all know what Jesus did about when they were using the temple courts as a commodity. He overturned the tables, and it didn't say he did it. He said he was angry, and it was a premeditated anger. He actually took time to plait a whip to go about and do his business. So it's a serious thing when you get on the wrong side of God, when you're trying to use him as a commodity. He's not impressed by a faith that tries to remind him of his promises. God, you promised this, so you have to do it. What he wants is an approach that is by faith, in faith, that trusts him enough to obey him. So, what is faith? Hebrews, again, the earlier part of that chapter, I'll read from verse 4. By faith Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, through which he was commended as righteous, God commending him and accepting his gifts, and through his faith, though he died, he still speaks. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found, because God had taken him. Now before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. Verse 1, let me just go back to that one, because that is just the definition. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Faith is not positive thinking. It's not positive expression, positive words, which we do need, but that's not what faith is. It's not religious talk. It's not believe hard enough and you can get things, or you can get closer to God. Faith is acting on what God has actually said without asking him for a guarantee of what he said. James, in the book, he talks a lot about faith and works, and he hones it down in two verses. 1:22, be doers of the word, not just hearers. We all hear and we all assent to it and we all say, yes, this is true. But he says, then get on with it and do it. And in chapter 2, verse 17, faith without the works is dead. So that just puts the edge right on it. We need to do something about the hope and the faith that we have, and we need to trust him. Faith moves you to do things. And if you don't, then it's nothing more than a theoretical faith. You know, I belong to the group. I'm in the faith. And that's not where we're meant to be. The whole chapter is full of examples. Abraham, he was told to leave his home. I mean, the whole tribe, you know, tents, tribe, animals, supplies. I want you to go. No, didn't know where to go, but God said, I'll show you where to go. Same Abraham, he had faith in God when God asked him to raise the knife above Isaac. Moses, he walked away from royalty, security, power, privilege, comfort to obey God, to become leader of a rebellious people. Rahab, one of the dark ones in there, Rahab the prostitute, she sided with God and she hid the slaves, the spies, and helped them escape. You'll find out that Rahab is part of the genealogy of Jesus. Worth thinking about. Look at them all in that chapter. By faith, by faith, by faith. Faith made them do things right away. Not once they'd figured things out, but if God says something, you'll know God said something, and you need to act upon that. I need to act upon that. Jesus gives his own definition in Luke 6:46 when he says, why do you call me Lord, Lord? And he repeats that, Lord, Lord, because everybody's saying it. So why do you call me Lord and don't do what I tell you to do? That's when faith is supposed to kick in. And that question needs to be asked individually today. Why do I call him Lord and still aren't doing all the things and trusting in him for all of the things that he has told me? John 15:5, Jesus again reminds us, apart from me, you can do nothing. You know, the vine and the branches, the fruit. Without me, you can do nothing. And when we get to that realization in our trust and in our faith that we can't do anything, that's when our dependence goes upon him, and it replaces our self-reliance of the things that we can do. And I know personally, God orchestrates, he engineers, choreographs, if you will, circumstances in my life to bring me to a point that I recognize my insufficiency. Not to crush me, not to test me, but then I turn to him and say, well, what is it you want? And I trust him. Faith keeps doing despite the cost, as we've seen there. Despite what it looks like, we need to carry on in faith, in trusting him, no matter what happens. And we're in good company there. Look at Acts. When the lads were in a spot of bother, you know, and when I say bother, they were in jail, they were flogged, beaten, thrown out of town, mocked, ridiculed. Their prayer wasn't, Lord, did I hear right from you? And it wasn't, Lord, protect us through this and save us. The prayer that came out of them was, give us more boldness. Let's do it again, and let's do it better this time. We trust in you because you have told us this is the way. Real faith keeps obeying, even when it hurts. When it hurts inside. I don't mean physical hurt, sometimes yes, but when it hurts inside and it goes against everything that we know of ourselves and think of ourselves, faith carries on and does what he says. Luke 18:8, again, Jesus' words. When the Son of Man comes, will I find faith? Not bums on seats, not mega churches, not ministries, not outreach, not charities, not this, not that, the other. But will I find faith in the individual, in each one of us? If nothing changes, will I still trust him?
Yeah.
If everything changes, will I still trust him?
Yes.
I know faith is a noun. It should be a verb, because faith makes you do stuff. You do faith. Faith is the working out of the whole. It's even a lifestyle. Both the Old Testament and the New Testament say the righteous shall live by faith. That one of them's in Habakkuk, and the other one is, of course, is in Romans, that Martin Luther based his thesis on, for the Reformation. Faith that never leads to obedience is religious talk. It's Christianese. And that I'm guilty of it at times. I have been guilty of it, and I repent, because faith ought to make me go further, go deeper. Faith makes me lose control, lose my comfort, my reputation, my security, because I'm now trusting in him. I now believe what he says will come to pass. And then I have to ask myself the question, if my faith has not cost me anything,
Is it genuine?
have I really been faithful? I'll just finish with a little more of a detail about one of the people mentioned in Hebrews 11. Noah, classic example. God came to Noah and said, listen, I want you to build a boat, build a big one, and I'll show you how big it's going to be and how to do it. Now, my response would have been, hang on a bit, I'm a farmer. So what's going to happen to the farm while I'm doing this, because it's a long-term project? 2, we're quite a ways from the seaside here, so you're going to need to give me a blueprint for a trailer to take the boat to the seaside. Let me just check the long-range weather forecast and see if things are going to change on the horizon. I say this glibly, but these are the kind of responses that, I expect from me when something as major as this comes along. But Noah didn't say any of those things. He got on with it. He built the boat in the desert for 4 families, 2 animals of every kind, supplies for the journey, which he didn't know how long it was going to be at the time. Amazing. It was a boat with no propulsion, no method of steering, no way out, because God made the door and he shut them in and sealed it. All of them, Moses, Abraham, Noah, Rahab, Enoch, and the rest. What would have happened if they hadn't have stepped out in faith? And the serious question and challenge to me is, what's going to happen if I don't step out in faith? Not just personally for me, but if I don't do the things that he has called me to do or asked me to do. What difference is that going to make for other people? I'm saved, I'm delivered. I'm ransomed, healed, restored and forgiven. But now that demands, and I know they say being saved doesn't cost us anything, but it costs us our lives. It demands everything that we are. There's one song that we sing, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. I don't suppose God has asked any of us to build a boat or any such things, or hide spies or sacrifice our children. But listen to this. Luke chapter 4, verse 18. We all know it. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives, the recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. That wasn't just Jesus' mission statement when he came back from the temptation in the desert. Listen, that same Spirit that was on and in Jesus is now on and in each one of us. And the Spirit wants to work through an obedient heart that trusts him. After he read that, he said, today this is fulfilled in your hearing, which was a shock to the people who were listening. And again, that wasn't just to reveal his true identity. It was the embodiment of the obedience to his Father. Because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and I will do as you have asked. He's declaring a life submitted to the Spirit of God. We can proclaim, preach. We don't always have to do it with words. We do it with our lives and our actions. We proclaim liberty. We can tell people of the freedom there is in knowing Christ. We can tell people of the recovery that can be experienced of sight, illness, sometimes physical, but spiritual blindness too. And freedom for the oppressed. We can work at freeing those who are overpowered. There's the mandate for our faith today. And may we each leave this place with that in our hearts, with the same Spirit that can say, today, this has been fulfilled. Amen. That